Are we nearly ready?
Good afternoon, Felicity and guests with me today. Felicity, sorry for that. We had some, and apologize for all the viewers. We had some technical issues early on today, but you should be able to hear us loud and clear and see us as well. With me today, we have Felicity and guests. We're discussing today child maintenance difficulties in South Africa. Welcome, Felicity. Anything you want to add to that introduction?
Hello, Mohammed. Good to be here again. It's wonderful to see that each week more people are tuning in. It just goes to show that this is a critical area, and as I've discovered over many years, just not enough information and a very complicated space.
Yes, you're 100% right. I think the problem we have with child maintenance matters is it deals with people's livelihoods, their money, etc. And I agree with you. There's major difficulties. I'm practicing now almost for 20 years, and every month I have to deal with basically with a child maintenance matter, and it's concerning. And I do not see much changes that happen for the last almost 20 years in the system. The courts are looking nicer and prettier, but the same problem occurs all the time.
Yes, it does. But we're working on it. I think that the one thing that we must not forget is that they are watching us. And what they're doing about it is a different story, because when I was invited to the DOJ Gauteng National Strategic Planning session last year, I sat in on the whole conference. And the Chief Family Advocate spoke the Thursday, I spoke the Friday, and she said, our name is disgusting out there as the Department of Justice. All you have to do is go onto a page like Child Maintenance Difficulties in South Africa and see how tarnished our name is. So, yes, there are people that are watching what we're doing and what we're saying. And at times, I just feel that we're actually doing their job. It's crazy that we're a support system to the friggin' one of the major pillars of our constitution and our democracy, that we're the biggest support group. We're probably the only support group for the most vital organ of state. I mean, it's pretty bizarre. But
Felicity, your group is over 60,000 people. I mean, that's people that have access to internet and Facebook and so on. I mean, the vast majority of people do not have access to that. So if you work it out, if you only have 10% of the people in South Africa that has problems, because obviously they have access to online facilities, etc., there could be close to 1 million people out there that require the service. So Felicity, well done. And when I met you the first time, I was so in awe that I have connected with someone like you. You could possibly be public enemy number one for the state from a different point of view, but you're doing great work. Thank you for that.
It's a pleasure. The interesting thing as well is that I have very close working relations with some of the people who are prosecutors and work for the DOJ in various capacity, and they themselves feel just completely helpless in changing the system from within. So I think there's other things at play, and we need to we've discussed this several times, a clearer strategy. And that starts with empirical data and research, and we're working on that.
Felicity, I'm with you 100%. So Felicity, what are we? I'm just testing the system. If the sound is fine. You were streaming well, so it is streaming well. Those people who are watching live, please, you are watching obviously on the Facebook page. You're welcome to post any comments, and we'll try to address that. So today's topic, Felicity, what are we dealing with? We dealt previously with child maintenance applications.
Okay, so what I would like to just do for probably 10 minutes is just like chat about some of the questions that have been asked. We will probably cover most of the questions, so we're not able to get back to everybody. There are just too many questions, but to just discuss some of the questions that have come up, which I think are quite relative. So the one is, I was told by a maintenance officer that they cannot take more than a quarter of dad's salary. Is this right?
No, that doesn't make sense to me. A quarter. I mean, if the father can afford to pay use half of his salary, there's no logic behind that. I mean, if he must pay 100% of his salary, he should pay 100% of his salary. There is no legal principle behind that. Number one is maintenance is determined based upon your income and also your assets, your wealth, and expenditure as well. So, for argument's sake, if the father can only afford to give away 1% of his salary, that is a fair assessment based upon the facts of the fictitious scenario. But if the child requires 100% of the father's salary and he can survive with other income, what if he has $1 million in his bank account as savings? What if he owns a huge mansion but his salary is little? There is no logical basis behind it, and I'm disappointed that the maintenance officer will even make such an allegation.
Well, it's not the first time that this has come up, and I think this again speaks to that. What are the directives that are being given to maintenance officers? You know, the framework that they need to operate in. I know a few, and this is just one of them, which, you know, they argue as facts. And it's difficult for somebody, the lay person, to argue against them because they don't, I mean, we're not legal practitioners. We're just mothers on a mission, you know, trying to do the best for our children. And it's almost as though we are like having to get a law degree just to navigate the maintenance court because not everybody can afford a legal representative. Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Do you want to say something else?
No, Felicity, I think the problem we have is the maintenance officers themselves. They are not legally educated, or they are told you're only supposed to know point 1 to point 10 in the handbook. But many of the questions are not in the handbook or not dealt with in the handbook. And you have to think, you know, you have to know the law. And I'm serious on this issue. Maintenance officers need to have an LLB degree and they need to have some type of formal legal training. Either as prosecutors, number one, qualified prosecutors, or they have to be, you know, attorneys, you know, ex-attorneys. That's what is required.
You know, the sad thing is I've heard from within, and this is not speaking to all of them, okay? Some of them are passionate about their jobs. Some of them are very happy in their jobs. But I've heard several times that it's a dead-end job for them. You know, that it's a limiting career path for them. It's to try and focus on maintenance, because I mean, a lot of them, most of them, how many of them, who knows, have got aspirations to become more than just a maintenance officer. So, you know, it's almost like a passing through, and those that are there, a lot of them just don't seem to care, quite frankly. Well, that's what I've been told quite often by people from within, that it's a dead-end job for them. And, you know, it's like, in terms of a career, it's the one least chosen in the DOJ or the NPA to follow. I mean, it's far more exciting to prosecute, you know, a murder or, you know, a big multi-billion scam. I mean, but still, it's no less significant, and that's what we need to be clear on. And they're there because they paid to be there, and they should have the right qualifications. So maybe we should. Okay, maybe I shouldn't say that. I could get a lot of people into trouble. Okay, so last week we touched on, it's come up, I just can't find it now. We touched on if you're the legal guardian that you don't need permission to leave the country. That apparently one of the parents was told that that's not the case. They do need the father's consent in spite of them being the custodian, the legal custodian.
Yeah, so there's two differences. There's a difference between being the custodian parent and the sole guardian. It's two separate issues. So custody deals basically with the day-to-day activities of the child, where the child wakes up, you know, feeding the child, taking the child to school, you know, to the day-to-day activities. Guardianship is a legal concept. For example, only a guardian can sign an application for passport. for the minor child's surname change, and so on, for relocation, for the removal of the country, or if a child wants to purchase immovable property like a home, the guardianship, you have to give consent. So it's possible that a parent will have no custody rights, no contact rights. He's not allowed to see his child at all, but he has guardianship rights. So if that is the situation and the mother applies for a passport and the father is a co-guardian, then the mother needs the father's consent. So if the mother is the sole guardian, like the court order says, you are the sole guardian of the child, then there shouldn't be a problem. She can go to the Department of Home Affairs and apply for a passport and just show them the document that she's the sole guardian. But if she has primary care or primary custody over the child, she still requires the father's consent if he's a co-guardian of the child. Okay. For the removal of the public, for going overseas, and for the passport application.
Okay. So if you are a sole guardian, you don't require anybody else's signature.
You're right. Only your consent is required. You're the sole guardian.
Yeah. Okay, fabulous. And then it's come up again, you know, that they're just not looking at the list of the, we're going to say fathers because it's a majority, or the defendants are not bringing documentation with them, and they are not doing a proper inquiry into their financials, their expenditure. They just make ruling amounts, which is quite problematic. One of the members asked me a question. The father had not appeared in a previous. He didn't appear the last time he was meant to appear in court, and they just re-invited him. Fortunately, he graced them with his presence on the second occasion, but she did not bring her payslip, and they threatened to chuck it off the roll. So she then made a bit of a scene, and it's been set down for January again. But this is just, and we see this quite often, that, you know, the applicant is dealt with pretty harshly, and there seems to be a different set of standards for the applicant as opposed to the respondent. Yes. And this is just like one of the examples. So they tend to scrutinize the applicant's expenditure, even if he's not paying maintenance. I mean, and if he's got a legal representative. I spoke to a mom the other day where it's been documents going backwards and forwards, and he's like tearing her expenses apart, but the father has not been paying maintenance for like, I don't know if he's, I can't remember if he was defaulting or if this is the first application. And she's going like, why do I feel like I'm the person on trial here? I'm trying to get financial support for the child. So, you know, it just, and I know we're going to say the courts are biased. We believe the courts are biased towards men. And I know that fathers believe that the courts are biased against them. But we see these kind of things playing out pretty often.
Yes. Now, Felicity, there's a legal obligation, and this is case law, it's documented in our law, that the maintenance officer and the maintenance magistrate has a legal obligation to do a proper inquiry. And a proper inquiry entails having both sides' income and expenditure, proof of, you know, whatever the case may be, they need to do that. If they are not doing that, 9 out of 10 times the appeal court will, you know, set aside the order and make its own order, or refer the matter back to the maintenance court to start the whole procedure again. It's disappointing. The maintenance office has an obligation to do that. Maybe they're trying to scrutinize the mother's or the applicant's documentation so that they do not have to go to the father's side. Because if they go to the father's side, then they have to deal with a formal inquiry. But if they can stop the buck by the mother saying, man, we do not have a case for increase, please leave. We don't have to subpoena the father. We don't have to get the father involved. It's very concerning. And the person that loses out here is only the minor child or the kids involved. It's unconstitutional. It's unlawful the way that they're conducting themselves. Just as well as scrutinizing the mother's documentation, they need to do exactly the same for the father. It's law.
Yes, I agree 100%. And I think that anybody going through the system feels pretty aggrieved, because, you know, it's almost as though that from the time that you enter the court, like once you pass through security, it's almost like you are fighting a losing battle.
Yes.
Because I flippantly say that that we're actually just the witness. I mean, we're taking to the courts a violation, okay, like in the case of arrears. So there's been a violation, a contempt of court, but it's not against us, it's against the provisions for the child. So if we don't take it to court, then nothing happens. So the onus is on us as a primary caregiver to bring it to the court's attention that the child's rights are being violated. Am I clear in understanding that?
You're 100% correct, yes. Felicity,
Okay.
no, go ahead.
So when this person, I believe, who is trying to uphold the child's rights and protect them, because that's what they're really trying to do, that they should be treated with a little bit more respect when they get to court. And from my own experience and countless, we see this on the group, that from the time the first person they engaged with is a security person, well, I know in Cape Town, and they treat you in a very undignified manner. It's almost like they're doing you a favor. And if you ask questions, they're so dismissive about it. Then you get to the clerk. I've had some great experiences with a lot of the clerks in Cape Town. But the clerks themselves, possibly in Cape Town and around the country, and we know this, we hear this, that they are also so almost flippant. You know, it's like you're interrupting them while they're on their phones or having a conversation or doing whatever. It's almost like you're imposing on their time. And then and thereafter, it's like, so women or the applicants tend to go, why am I doing this? I'm not getting anything out of this, really, although you are, because you're in control of the expenditure. Like, why am I putting myself through all of this when, like, it's not for me, really. I'd rather just hustle, get more jobs and do it and avoid all of that, because it is affronting to one's dignity, which is the preamble to the Constitution.
Felicity,
it continues.
I am disappointed with the system. Day in and day out, we get people complaining about how the maintenance system is, not working. It's failing them, and because of this, failure of justice doing its job, word goes around. They tell each other, they tell their friends, and so people that are entitled who has a strong case to obtain maintenance from the other party, they do not go ahead. And you're right, they start getting another job or they start neglecting the child. So if the child requires an additional 500 rand maintenance in order to pay for school fees at a better school, just because the maintenance system is failing them, they'll decide, you know what, go to a cheaper school, get a less quality education, as long as I do not have to go to the maintenance court and enforce the rights which I have. And it's concerning. So, Felicity, we need to do something about this. What are we going to do about it?
Well, there needs to be a willingness, in my opinion. I mean, you said last week we can go the legal route, but we can't, it's going to be too broad. Everything is wrong, and we can't take everything in one case to court. So it'll be multiple cases, which is quite frankly too expensive and too time consuming, and they're going to argue to protect themselves. I think that if there was a willingness on their part to come to the table, to sit with practitioners like yourself, with activists like myself, and with ordinary people of the public, to hear what is, and to have a real desire to change it, because I get the impression from the likes of our deputy minister, who seems to be the main spokesperson on maintenance issues, not the minister, that he will say, I admit there's problems, but he doesn't engage further. So we don't know. Yes, you can say we got problems and it's a priority and we're doing this, but we know it's not working. So, and there's this complete gap between them and us. It's almost like, don't come into our lane, stay in your lane. You're upsetting us. You're going to, like, we just want to keep the status quo. And there's no feedback to us to say, yes, there are problems, and we're going to be doing this, and we're going to be doing that. Please come and participate. Give us your feedback so that we know we're correcting it. I said to one of the things that I tried to do after my meeting in Johannesburg with the DOJ, Gauteng, was I said, just in my group, we probably could monitor every single court in this country through my group, because it's national. That we can give you almost like immediate feedback on what is wrong with every single court in this country. They didn't even respond. Now, for me, either it's arrogance or it's they don't care. And it just doesn't make sense to me because they're supposed to be the upper guardians of minor children. So I have a, you know, I just carry on. I just find other ways and I make more noise. We need more people to make more noise. But I still don't think until they sit and engage directly with us, I don't believe that there's going to be a fundamental change.
Felicity, yes, more noise, but the problem is we make noise for this one minister, for the one officer, and then a few months down the line, there's elections, and people change jobs, and then we'll have to start the whole process again. Felicity, while I have you there, somebody made a comment. It says the following, just a suggestion, would be great to interview a maintenance officer and check their side as well. I know it's a challenge in terms of the legal knowledge. Felicity, you can comment on that in a moment's time. And the next question we have is, what happens given COVID? Lots of people retrenched, lost jobs, etc. with regard to maintenance. So I'll deal with the second question. You deal with the first one regarding listening to the maintenance officer's side of the story. Have you spoken to one or two? I'm certain you have spoken to many.
I've spoken to many maintenance officers, and by and large, they acknowledge that there are problems. I mean, they will not come on public like this, a public platform, and talk about it because you have to speak to the DOJ spokesperson. They're not mandated in their personal capacity to speak on behalf of the DOJ. But I've had loads of feedback from maintenance officers and prosecutors, for that matter, where they go, that they don't know what to say or do because they know that there are problems. And a lot of them are women, and they go, as a woman, I understand and I feel for them, but there's so little we can do because the system is wrong. And this is an acknowledgement from inside.
Yeah, it's very concerning. And if I'm applying for a job as a maintenance officer, yes, I'll get paid for my job, but I'm only limited with the resources given to me. And is it my job as a 1 week in the seat of a maintenance officer to complain to my boss where I'm still on probation, etc.? So it becomes very difficult, for things to happen from their point of view, but they need to do something. So Felicity, regarding the second question.
Because if somebody comes in, we know this, and they've got all these wonderful ideas. So I had a maintenance officer join the group. Again, I normally reach out to them, and I reached out to them because he said, I want to do research. So I sent him a private message and I go, hi, thank you for joining the group. What research are you wanting to do? Who are you? And what organization do you represent? So he said, no, I'm actually a maintenance officer. And I thought that if I did some research to understand the kind of challenges that people are facing when they go to courts, I can be proactive and, start dealing with them, working with them. And that's the way. And those are the kind of initiatives that we celebrate. However, I've seen it in other courts where often when this happens, if the rest of them are not on board, then they go, no, hang on, like you're making too much noise. You're going to upset the boat for all of us. Can we just keep the status quo? So, or every time they make a suggestion, they go, no, it's too hard. No, we can't. Even if you are full of enthusiasm, we know eventually your enthusiasm wanes because everybody's just so negative.
And that's concerning. That's very concerning that everybody's just so negative. Felicity, you are one of a kind, and we need to take this matter further. I don't know how are we to do it. We can't always have these webinars and dealing with all the problems on that's arising. Someone needs to come forward to us. If a minister is listening to us, if somebody in government is listening to us, I'm certain they are. Please share this video to them. Send this video to them. Tell them that there are people in public, there are lawyers, there are activists, like Felicity and guests, who are willing to assist in resolving this problem. I do not want to practice for the next 50 years law and still dealing with the same maintenance act, the same issues, year in and year out. As kids turn 18 years old, they become self-supporting, a new batch of kids comes in. So every day it's the same procedure. So the only people that could probably benefit from this maintenance system could be the maintenance officer, maintenance magistrates, the lawyers involved, and so on. And hopefully some complainants can benefit from that. Felicity, but getting back to the question, what happens during COVID-19? Lots of people got retrenched. And there was a reply for someone else said to that question, come forward if your financial situation had changed. So I don't know who that person is, but Yes, you're right. So if your financial situation has changed, please approach a maintenance court, and let them relook the matter. Things are different. Expenditures are obviously could possibly be different, and your income has, reduced. So it's really, if you have lost your job and you really do not have any income to pay the child maintenance order, let the maintenance court relook the entire matter. Let the mother unpack her things again. Let you unpack everything. Let's look at the child expenditure again. Certain type of expenditures could have fallen out by the wayside, for example, extramural activities and so on. The matter can be relooked at. So if you have to pay, for argument's sake, 1,000 and maintenance, and now the child expenses has reduced and you lost your job and you can afford less, and the mother maybe got a better job, maybe she's earning more money, as the case may be, the court can relook the matter and make a fair order under the circumstances. So that's my answer regarding that. Felicity, anything to add to that question?
Sorry, just shh. Oi. Shh. No. Sorry.
No,
I just want to open the door. Shh.
So those of you who are watching this video, please share it if you can. We have one further question. Felicity, we have another question. He says, what if the maintenance officer and the ex-wife lawyer knows each other and team up against the ex-husband? So the ex-wife's lawyer, is friends with a maintenance officer and they team up against the ex-husband. I mean, that's very concerning to me because that's grounds for review and so on. So if you feel that is the case, complain to the senior magistrate, complain to the court officials, whoever there is in the building, the court manager, and complain about that. That shouldn't happen. If you really think they're being this gross misconduct taking place, complain to the legal practice council, that the lawyer is acting improper, as the case may be. That's my advice on that.
Yeah, there's also, I hear it quite, from time to time, that there are relatives, that working in the court, and that there appears to be favored treatment to them because they have relatives in the court. There's also some assumptions, like a file goes missing and they go, well, I don't know if it's such a coincidence that my file has gone missing, considering that his aunt works in the maintenance department. The one was a magistrate who was the respondent, and her case was just like dogged completely, like from beginning to end, because he was a magistrate in that particular court, and
Wow.
and also I just also want to raise that I know for the few times that I went to maintenance court with an advocate or an attorney, that and you probably as well, or your staff, who go there regularly, that you know these people because you see them almost like on a daily basis. So it is, hello, how are you? There are times where you have informal conversations. How's your kid? So I think we must also just establish first before we make accusations. And that's not just in the maintenance court. I've seen it at the high courts as well. I've seen it in the clerks, where the runners come and they go, oh, I've come to collect all of these files, and they know each other. They know each other pretty well. And on the outside, it would go, oh, there's a bit of familiarity here. I wonder if this will influence my case. I'm just putting that in because that's a reality. Yes. It's your workspace. It's the legal practitioner's colleagues. And also, if somebody comes with a legal practitioner, they are treated differently. The legal practitioner is treated very differently. So if the one comes unrepresented and the other one has representation, there's very different dynamics in play. Because they know each other on whichever side it is, and it is intimidating, and it does feel like they're all plotting against you. However, it doesn't mean to say that they don't collude. I think it's also at times where I've seen it, but also heard it a lot, where a maintenance officer is not assertive enough to interject and say to the legal practitioner, hang on, you're wrong, we need to do this, or you are being a bit too aggressive, can you take a breath or step back or whatever. They don't seem to take control of the situation, and often the legal practitioner ends up running the whole hearing.
Felicity, I can relate to that issue. I once appeared in a maintenance court, so I sat in the maintenance officer's office. So this one counsel, senior counsel, he came and he told the maintenance officer, my name is AB, and I'm senior counsel, and I'm an acting judge. So he came to court with a purpose of intimidating the maintenance officer. I'm certain the maintenance officer had some here on their teeth, but they tried to do that. But on the same note, Felicity, yes, because the lawyer and the maintenance officer, we understand the law to a certain extent. So we know what can be done and what cannot be done and how the procedure works. So a layperson might presume that we are, we colluding, but we're not necessarily doing that. It's because we know the next step will be the following, and we may be now already discussing the next step, and we're agreeing upon it, whereby you may think that, we are colluding, but we're not doing that. But at some point, it's possible that if the maintenance officer worked previously under the banner of the lawyer that's in his office, you might have to want to be a bit friendlier and maybe assist him better. And yes, if you are legally represented in some courts, Felicity, not all courts, they do treat you better in the sense of you're getting preference and so on. But I've appeared in many courts, Felicity, and you get treated even equally. You have to wait your turn. And sometimes they first resolve all unrepresented people's matters, and then they call you in. So I went to, not for maintenance matter, I went to George court now the other day, and we basically had to wait till all the other matters were finalized before our matter could be heard. And it was to our disadvantage because, we thought it would be heard, but sooner. But anyway, those are the facts of the matter. We have another question, Felicity. It says the following. My husband's lawyer asked the ex-wife's lawyer, the second question. My husband's lawyer asked the ex-wife's lawyer for her income and expenses twice. They didn't give it. So my lawyer, I'm a lawyer, I'm asking the other side, please provide me with your client's documentation, and they did not provide it to the specific person. And it says further, and the lawyer said that he never asked for it, so he lied in court. You see, when it comes to these type of matters, discovery, exchange of documentation, it needs to be done formally. So, and you need to know exactly what you're asking for. Don't just ask the other side, please provide me with your documentation or your income expenditure. I do not do that. What I advise people to do is create a schedule of what exactly require from the other side. You know the other party's income expenditure or situation much better than many other people. So stipulate there, I would like to have your bank statements for the last 3 months, your ABSA account, your FNB account. I would like to have your credit card statements. I would like to have proof of your expenditures at the golf range. So you outline it very in detail and you email it to the other side. Your lawyer should actually do it. And it's on the record. And also you file it in the maintenance officer's file as well. Or when you appear in court the next time, you show it to the maintenance magistrate and say, I have requested this specific documentation, it has not been provided to me. Then the maintenance magistrate can make an order or a directive stipulating at the next court appearance it must be made available. But just asking the other side for documentation doesn't always work. It was said orally or it's done by the way. It needs to be done formally. Felicity, can you comment on that? We got some more questions are coming in before I deal with other questions.
Okay, so saying that it has done formally, we also hear that it's not adhered to, even when the magistrate says that the documents have to be exchanged. What is the recourse? Because we know it happens. What is the recourse?
You see, Felicity, I always take the robust approach. If the party does not want to provide me with his bank statements, I subpoena ABSA Bank. This is how I do it. You get documentation from SARS. Whatever is possibly obtainable via the public domain, ITC documentation. I mean, Felicity, you're also connected with your investigators. Get them. So don't depend upon the other side to provide you with the necessary documentation. You yourself need to be proactive and get the documentation if possible. So what we sometimes do is we prepare our subpoenas, we get a maintenance officer to issue it, and we have it, served ourselves. Because if you ask the other side, please provide me with a schedule of your income and expenditure, and what if he or she lies in it, and then you're limited with that information. If possible, you yourself, if the person is working for a boss, subpoena his employer. Let the employer come to court and explain to the court exactly, how much he earns. Subpoena ABSA Bank or FNB or whatever the banks are, and obtain from them exactly for the last 2 years what this person's, lifestyle was based upon the bank statements. But Felicity, you're 100% right, because if somebody wants to delay the system, the magistrate can continuously ask that person, please provide, I'm ordering to provide. Yes, they're in contempt of court and there are consequences thereof. But I do not advise a maintenance matter to proceed if all the documentation is not there. The court can scold him, yes, but what if he has 100,000 rand laying in his bank account? The court scolds him out, saying contempt of court. Now the matter proceeds without that information. It's not a good idea. Felicity, before this, a lot of questions are coming in before I lose some of these questions. It says, this one person is saying, it's like we are wasting their time by being there. Yes, the maintenance officer gives him that view. It says further, someone else, it's soul destroying going to the maintenance court, and only the ones applying for maintenance will understand the feeling. Thank you for that comment, Felicity. That is also 100% right. Another person saying, we have not been divorced yet. We're still fighting over maintenance. He said he is doing me a favor by giving me maintenance, and his lawyer advised that he is only legally obligated to pay maintenance once we divorced. So that is nonsense, Felicity. I mean, you're legally obliged to maintain your spouse throughout the marriage. That's one of those, legal consequences of getting married. So before you marry someone, you don't have to maintain that person. But the moment you marry that person, you have a legal obligation to maintain that person. If you marry income into your property, that money can come from the joint estate, of course, but there's a legal obligation. So I disagree with that person's lawyer. That lawyer is being wrong over there. You have a legal obligation to maintain someone even before you while you are married and before the divorce date. That's why we have Rule 43 applications in the High Court, whereby the court can enforce maintenance obligations pending the outcome of the divorce. And you also possibly can be liable to maintain your spouse after the divorce, alimony, personal maintenance, and so on. Okay, someone commented to that. Go ahead, Felicity, the questions are all coming in. Go ahead, I'm listening to you.
No, sorry, I'm saying there's also the Rule 58, which is, the cheaper version and maybe quicker version. But the Rule 58 invariably are the ones that are not that adversarial. To get them through quicker.
Yes, in the magistrate's court. Yes, no, Felicity, thank you for that. Someone replied earlier on to one of the previous comments saying, disgusting. I honestly feel that some attorneys are never for the kids, and I am actually seeing this one in my case. Very sad, Felicity. We lawyers are now just using this matter, using cases in order to make money. As I said earlier on, the maintenance process, most of the people that benefit from it is the lawyers, the maintenance officers, the magistrates, and so on. Felicity, can I deal with the last question and then we can go on? You did invite everybody to ask questions, am I right?
Yeah.
And we welcome it.
The thing for me is, and this is not anything personal against any individual legal practitioner, but this is their job. How many legal practitioners walk away from a client just because they're going, sorry, it's the right thing to do. You need to pay your child, and you need to pay at least this. I've paid privy to your income and your expenditure, and as to do the right thing this is what you should be paying. And then walk away from it because they feel so strongly about protecting the child, and this person acting like an a-hole. Excuse my language. Yes. How often does it happen? I mean, it's the income. This is what they do. So it becomes quite murky because even if they do have a personal opinion, they can go, oh, geez, do you know what this client of mine did? And yes, I had to fight for him and I felt so bad. But does he lose a night's sleep, or she lose a night's sleep because she screwed the other person to the detriment of the child? I'm sorry. It's like, for me, it's a bit of narcissism there. And
it's quite it's difficult as a legal practitioner because, I mean, firstly, you have your client's instructions, and it's not your job to judge your client and make a decision on the case before the time. That's the maintenance officers and maintenance magistrates, or the maintenance magistrate decision to make over there. But if a client is being, totally unrealistic and unreasonable, you have two options. You can either withdraw, but is that a good idea? Number one, firstly, because then you can no longer convince your client to do what's best for the client, and also you're abdicating from your obligation to represent somebody because the client believes that he has a case and he should not pay whatever is required from your client. And also you have bills to pay. You have to pay for the internet. You have to pay for our petrol. So do we first judge the client before the time, and then we decide to take on your case or not? And as the case goes on along, and the client doesn't agree with us, we decide to sack our clients. I doubt we'll be able to pay for this internet connection if that had to be the case, because many clients that come to you initially with unreasonable requests. Please, you're welcome to keep posting questions, but I'll just read the one that came in now. I have applied for 5 years arrears and counting. The court have done the investigation to see if he is currently employed or not, and have found no record of employment for the past year. He has told me that he is self-employed, but I have no evidence as it was a verbal conversation. I have a meeting with my own with a maintenance officer. What can I expect? So clearly here the guys say there's no information that the guy is earning anything, and also he's saying that he's not. She's meeting with a maintenance officer. My quick answer to this specific situation would be get the maintenance investigator involved over here. Let him do something. And Felicity, what other options do they have civilly? Is there places, organizations that can assist them in doing some initial investigation on these type of people that say they earn nothing and there's no proof from the maintenance officer's point of view?
There are private investigators, but in fact, I met up with a woman who used to work in the maintenance court, and she became a bounty hunter.
Oh.
And she managed to get funding for it, and she was pretty successful. But unfortunately, the funding dried up, and she actually went back to the DOJ. She's back working at the DOJ. And she had great success because she didn't just find the errant parent, but she also did those kind of things. And there's different there are different private investigators, and it's what are you prepared to pay for? So for a small fee of about 350 Rand, they will go and they do RTC checks, and they go, okay, this is what it says here. I mean, it's pretty basic, and half the time it could be out of date anyway.
Yes.
And for a much bigger fee, they can do a more in-depth investigation. But to be honest, who has those funds available? The majority of mothers don't. And my contention with that, as is with the serving of directives for people to appear in court, is these people are getting friggin' salaries. Every single court is supposed to have 1 or 2 maintenance investigators, and they are getting paid. They have access to the Department of Labor. They should. If they don't, which I believe they don't, you might be able to explain it better, but like most other first world or yes, and I'm going to say first world because we all are signatories to protecting children, irrespective of whether you're first or third world, is that they should be able to access the tax system, and they should do lifestyle audits. I mean, these are basic things that I believe that the investigators can do. But again, I have a huge amount of empathy for them because it is such a big problem. It is so they just don't have enough resources. I mean, every single person essentially needs to go through that process. They do not have capacity. And I understand it's not an excuse. That is the reality. So that's why women then take it on their own and they try and fund it themselves. It's not sustainable. Okay, they have to get this right. They have to, but I believe that if there's more consequences to avoiding, there will not be that kind of pressure on the maintenance investigator. I believe that the DOJ, with the way that the Maintenance Act is structured, has actually become their own worst enemy, that they are creating more obstacles than solutions for themselves.
Yes. Felicity, you're right on that aspect. There is a capacity issue. I believe the maintenance investigator, they have the compute on the PC. They have access to various software and certain databases to obtain certain relevant information. The specific person that made this comment early on, I would suggest go to the maintenance court when you meet with the maintenance officer and make a noise there. Say the maintenance investigator needs to do something. If they cannot find anything, you need to do something on your side. Or the maintenance officer must call this guy in and call him and interrogate him and ask him questions to find out where the money is. 5 years in arrears is a lot of money. But Felicity, on the issue concerning the maintenance courts, no excuse. I mean, if I don't pay my taxes, then it's easy for SARS to go to, get an order and attach my money. I mean, that's not difficult. But why is it when the maintenance court comes, when it comes to real maintenance, the problem becomes complicated? Felicity, next question. Okay, this is an add-on from a previous person. Also need to know, what do I do if investigation comes up with no income? they are really good at hiding the income. What is my next step? So, for example, the other party who's supposed to pay the maintenance, they investigate, they can't find any income. My quick answer is then look above, go to his parents, go to other people and claim maintenance from them. If that is not possible, you need to start doing some investigation. You need to start looking into the matter, because it's theoretically possible that there is no income. I do not give that a impossibility. But if there is income and you believe there's income based upon how the person dresses, a person on social media, do some investigation, find out exactly where this person is hiding income, how is he paying for it, and bring that specific information to the maintenance court's attention.
Mohammed, on that point, so and we often encourage the primary caregiver to do this, is to troll social media, take snapshots, screenshots, or take photographs when you see that person driving around in a motor car when they believe they don't have. They should be able to follow up the courts, and provide that. So we also find that the court is pretty dismissive when you do bring them that kind of evidence. They go, this is not going to hold, this doesn't prove anything. Instead of saying, okay, here's a picture of that person in a motor car, let's check the registration. Oh, so it's not registered to that person, but let's see who that person is. It might be a girlfriend, a cousin, and then see who drives that car all the time.
Yes. So, Felicity, so you're 100% right. So this is where I'm coming to when I deal with these type of matters, and I advise all my clients coming to my office, don't, take it for granted that the maintenance courts will think on your behalf or think the way you're thinking. You need to do your research. You need to think up things before the time. Simple things, for example, double checking whose car that is. I'm certain you could possibly do that on your own. That wouldn't be something impossible to do. And if you determine that the car belongs to his mom or his dad or his sister, then that is the information you go to the maintenance court with. But do not go to the maintenance court, at point 1, whereby you could have gone to them at point 7 with that data and get more results out of the matter. Felicity, this one further question over here. What happens if your spouse doesn't live in the same country in her country? She is living a higher standard of living, yet still demands large sums of money from the partner. What do you do in this case? So, for example, the guy lives in South Africa, the mother lives in the UK, pound, rand. She has a quite high expenditure. My quick answer to that is you do not have to pay what the other party is demanding. You have to pay what's fair. If there is a maintenance order in place, obviously you have to adhere to that, because the court would have applied the brain and the mind to that. If there is no maintenance order in place and the mother is asking for exorbitant amounts of money and you cannot afford that, then you stipulate that and you pay what you can afford. Let her take the matter further to the maintenance court. I wouldn't advise anybody to pay more than that what they should pay, or paying an amount, unless the court orders otherwise, of course, or paying an amount which you believe is exorbitant and not justified. It's very important, because if you can't, and same way the mother shouldn't claim, or the other party should not claim maintenance for less than what they are entitled to. So if you're entitled to 100 Rand, don't claim 50 Rand. And if you believe you should only pay 50 Rand, don't pay 100 Rand. And if there's a dispute, the matter must go to the maintenance court, let them resolve the matter. You disagree, Felicity?
No, I'm sorry, I have a problem with that. Because you're saying that from a reasonable person's point of view. But for people that are not reasonable, that here's you say that the way that you did, will go, oh no, but I heard an advocate say, I think it's unreasonable, but we're talking about 600 Rand. Okay, oh no, because you saw them get a new set of nails. So now suddenly you go, oh, it's unreasonable because you obviously spent the money on yourself. So if somebody hears you say that, they're going to, oh no, you take me to court, let's sort this out in court. Because the truth is, they're accumulating arrears all the time. They are not paying what the court ordered amount is, which is going to just accumulate. And so I would say there's and I know of a dad who pays an exorbitant amount of maintenance. I mean, it's just actually sold just about everything. The sad thing is he also hasn't had access. I mean, it's one of the saddest cases I've seen. He's paying thousands and thousands and thousands of rands worth of maintenance. I'm not kidding. It's about over 50,000 Rand a month, or it used to be. I don't know if it still is. And I mean, that for me is unreasonable. Look, even if you at private schools, for anybody. So in that case, and I mean, the courts have I don't know all the details. At one stage, I did know quite a lot. I'm just saying, those kind of things, that is like, for me, is kind of deemed unreasonable. It's been in and out of court for years. But I think that we need to be very careful the messages that we send, because it's already a problem area of not getting maintenance, not getting the court ordered amount, and also arrears not being taken seriously. So I think that we should really encourage people, if there is a court ordered agreement and you think it's unreasonable, pursue it through the courts before you take things into your own hands.
The Felicity, the question here was based upon there being no court order in place. So my answer was basically, if there's no order in place, if there's no court order in place, and the mother is asking for an exorbitant amount of money, and obviously if there's a court order in place, he must follow the court order. But Felicity, we're running, I think before this, the last question comes in. No, that's all in order. You know, Zoom webinars doesn't always work so well. Felicity, the time has gone past 1 o'clock now. We had a lot of questions and we answered all of them. Yeah, the person said over here, Felicity, one person said many thanks, and the last comment was, agreed with Felicity, my maintenance order is 500 per month and has never been paid because he believes I will use the money on myself. That's a general assumption. Many bails come to my office as well, and they say, I do not want to pay maintenance because a mother will use it for herself. But the question is, you know, how does the child live? So that's that. Felicity, and last comment was, thank you for this valuable information and feedback. Should really have another webinar regarding child maintenance difficulties. Yes, we'll have one next week again. Any last comments on your side, Felicity?
Yes, this is the third one. So if you haven't seen the others, all you have to do is type in Advocate Mohammed Abduroaf's name on the group, and the previous ones will come up and you can have a look at them. So this is number 3, and we'll keep doing this until we run out of content, which I doubt will be ever.
Not on child maintenance, never on child maintenance. Yeah, so next, Felicity, I think next week we'll put on a link, also a live link. They can just click on it and go to it. Felicity, thank you for your time. It's now past 1 and other stuff that needs to be done. Have a wonderful day, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care.
Okay.
Thank you. And all to the viewers, thank you very much.
Yeah, and really appreciate this time that we spend together. I think it is important, and thank you to those that post your questions and that support this and share them, you know, because we all learn and we can tell other people we work with, our cousins and our neighbors, whatever.
Yes, so Felicity, the next buzzword is share. So if you're watching this video till the end, wherever, please share it. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye, Felicity.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Thanks.